So this is my video blog for term 1 for my practicum, and as you can see, I am a drawing. Part of the reason why I feel like I am a drawing or a sketch is because teaching is something that is a process, much like a piece of artwork. It's never fully finished. You are constantly developing and changing and growing in terms of your philosophy, strategies, and tools. So my video blog today is to talk a little bit about my process right now in my term 1 block and talk about how creativity is being used in the classroom, how I've used it in the classroom with my students, and what I've observed as far as the presence of creativity and imagination in the classroom. The beginning of my week has been spent observing the classroom. I spent some time with the class, of course, 3 weeks prior and had a nice time with them, and they were a really great group of kids. And I'm back now and trying to get settled back into things. So a couple of things that I observed already in my first few bits is as much as my associate teacher is really fantastic, she's young, she's energetic, what I've been noticing is there seems to be a prevalence of worksheets and workbook outlines in class. And though I do think those are really helpful, I do find that there's not a lot of variety in terms of what you're learning and how you're applying that learning. So week 1, my associate teacher took the students through what's called Writer's Workshop. She does this once a week, double period, where the students get a really intense workshop situation where they're working through writing and developing their skills. So my associate teacher, I call her M, that's her initial, she ran through a direct instruction lesson plan working on writing leads and endings within the Writer's Workshop for these students, and this is a grade 4-5 classroom split. I think there's a great opportunity there with that type of learning. However, I found that the kids were getting really restless, and it wasn't too far into the lesson that they were already getting quite restless, and I don't know if it was just the mode of delivery as far as that lesson was concerned. Em was set up at the front of the classroom. She had an overhead, and she was running through a couple of examples and pulling from a health unit because they're working on bone building in the class right now. So she was pulling from that and talking about different ways you can lead and end paragraphs in writing. Though I think it was valuable, their engagement level was a little lacking, I guess would be, I don't know how to put that. There was a realization that my associate teacher had made that they were missing connections, connecting sentences, and so then she wanted them to redo the work at home on their spare time. She realizes, as well as I realized, that there was a key building block that was missing there. Some of that investment that the kids were missing, I think, could have been brought in with tying it into something a little more relatable to them and maybe making a bit more of an exciting project out of it, as opposed to just going through the worksheet with 4 different leads and 4 different endings. I think they're not seeing the connections, and that's part of where we lost the students, I would think. The way I've learned so far, and this is through my process in class with ICE, and also just working on my own philosophy, is creativity. People tend to get that word, I think, confused. Creativity becomes synonymous with being artistic. I don't think that's the case. I'm learning that myself. I used to use that term a lot, saying it's very creative, and art is very creative. However, creativity is really about problem solving and using your inquiry skills and just really pushing the envelope and seeing how far something can go, how far an idea can go. That, to me, is creativity. And I think there are a lot of students right now who are missing that element, and they don't know how to be creative. This is what I'm noticing. And there's a lot of challenges and barriers that teachers themselves deal with, and I see that. if this teacher themselves have barriers when it comes to their own creativity, then it's going to directly influence the creativity of the class. I was the first one to go through working with them with paints and a different type of medium, and we worked on textures with leaves and found items that were outside and things that we had brought in for their use. Part of what my associate teacher had shared with me was that she doesn't really know where to take the visual art, what to do with it. So she's been dealing strictly with lines and shapes, and that's fine. It's great foundation. And she's been really big on teaching them technique, which is a really great thing to offer them. But without the technique being connected to something that has meaning for them, they're not really going to take anything away from it. Art was put on the back burner. So they actually had gone almost 4 weeks without any art at all. So I've just realized with this, I think when I have my own classroom, art will not be put on the back burner, because my goal is to have it fully integrated into other classroom units and lessons, and that will be visual arts and it will be performing arts into every lesson as possible. So if for some reason the schedule won't permit it and we have to shuffle it around a little bit, that's all right, because I can still meet my curricular expectations and still give them that opportunity and that outlet. And I can do that with with character development. I can do that with language arts. I can do it even with math. And I have a couple of ideas that I'm working on for my end of unit project. Resources as a new teacher. I have tons of ideas, but I don't have a lot of resources. So I think that will be an actual material barrier for me until I get on my feet and can develop a really great array of choices when it comes to mediums and materials. I'll only be beginning to build my resources, and I think creativity does come from being able to pull off engaging activities with very little. I think a lot of great ideas come from necessity, but at the same time, there's something to be said for having a wide variety of materials available to your students, which then help to stimulate creative thinking. Overall, yeah, the challenge is also assessment. How do you assess that? How do you assess someone's artwork when it's really an extension of themselves? It's an extension of their personal expression. Perhaps we need to incorporate more creative projects into the classroom so that that sensitivity around it being so personal and close and near and dear to your heart, there might be a little more of detachment from that, which could be very healthy for students. So you don't crush young spirits so early in their life that they don't want to ever try it again. And that's the one thing I think we as teachers are all facing.